Welcome back. In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to keep talking about some other ways of manipulating elements. Remember, we select them and then manipulate. And so far, we've seen how we can change the color or any style properties, and also how we can use the class list to affect styling as well. So in this video, we're going to talk about two different properties, both of which allow us to change the text or the HTML on a page. So if I wanted to change the content inside of an H1 tag, or inside of a strong tag like I have here, or if I want to change an anchor tag, the text itself, that's what we're going to see how to do in this video. So the first property is something called text content. As you can see here, I have a paragraph with some text and a strong tag that says awesome, and then the rest of the paragraph text. So if I select this with document.querySelector-p, I save that to a variable, and I do tag.textContent. That will retrieve the text inside of that HTML element. And text is defined as anything between HTML tags, but not including the tags. So you'll see it returns, this is an awesome paragraph. It doesn't contain the strong tags. So it just extracts all the text from inside of that paragraph. However many layers deep it needs to go, it grabs all the text and returns one big string. And of course, we can also set text content, like I did here, tag.textContent equals blah, 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 and that will reset the text content to be blah, blah, blah inside of this paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how we can use the text content property. Before we do that, I'm going to update our sample demo HTML page with just a few more lines of markup so that we have some more text to work with. So I'm going to add a UL, and inside this UL, going to add, let's do flowers. So orchids, let's do succulents, and lastly, tulips. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work with this in the JavaScript console. So here's our page. Here's our UL with our three LIs, and then we also have this paragraph that has the strong tag around the word super. Corgi mixes are super adorable. As you can see, yes, they are. So I'm going to go to the console, and let's start by just selecting this paragraph. var p equals document, and my first instinct is always to use query selector because it's so easy, but I'm not going to do that, just so that we use another way just to get more practice. I'm going to use get elements by tag name, and that tag name is paragraph, and then remember, we still have to ask for the first one. So now if we look at P, we have that paragraph, and if we run text content on that, p.textContent, it tells us corgi mixes are super adorable. So it takes all the text inside there. Let's do the same thing on the UL. So let's select the UL, var UL, and this time I will use query selector, UL. Let's look at the UL, make sure we have the correct one, definitely the right one, and let's do text content on that. And you can see it gets rid of the li tags and it just gets the pure text content inside of that UL. And then what we can do is also update that. So this is a little bit dangerous actually, because let's say I want to update what this paragraph's text content is, and I want to update it to say corgi mixes are really, really super adorable. Well, I could do p.textContent equals, and then say corgi mixes are really, really super adorable. But hopefully you can foresee the problem. I'm going to get rid of this strong tag here. If I hit enter, it just completely overwrites it. So if we inspect this element now, we've just gotten rid of whatever was inside there, which was a strong tag. So text content is a little bit dangerous in that sense. If you're using it to set something, it's not bad, but you just have to be careful about it. You need to know exactly what's inside of an element. If there is HTML tags that you want to preserve, you don't want to just automatically set all of text content to be a new string, because that will erase everything. There's another property that works along the same lines as text content, except it actually keeps the HTML elements intact. So it doesn't just extract the text, it actually maintains the structure with the correct HTML elements returned as well as the text. So that property is called inner HTML. So we have our same paragraph. This is an awesome paragraph with strong tags around it, around awesome. and then we select it with query selector, and then we run tag.innerHTML, and that gives me this is an awesome paragraph while keeping the strong tag there. So I'll show you another example. I'm going to refresh the page so that we have our strong tag back here. And I'm going to go ahead and select the paragraph again, document.querySelector, paragraph. And we're going to run, let's just review text content first, and then let's do inner HTML. And you can see we get the strong tag returned to us as well. Let's do the same thing for the UL and the LIs that are inside of it. So var UL equals document.querySelector UL, and then UL.inner HTML. And we get the LI tags as well. So this is useful, and we'll see a few situations where we're going to take advantage of it in some of the projects that we build. Text is also useful if we're just changing what's inside of a tag. So usually we don't actually set inner HTML to be something because it's the same problem that we would have with setting the text content. It just overwrites whatever is currently inside of inner HTML. So I'll show you that. If I say ul.innerHTML is now equal to plants are awesome, it just completely overwrites it, just like it did for text content. So if we want to add new elements or we want to interact with HTML, there are other ways of doing that. But if all that we want to do, for instance, is change this title, Welcome to my DOM demo, we could select that first. It's an H1. And you notice there is no HTML inside of it. It's just an H1. So we could use either text content or inner HTML. It doesn't matter, but most people would use text content because that's all that this is, text content. And we could reset it to be something else. So that would just be a matter of document.get. Let's do query selector again. And I'm not going to save it to a variable just so that you get used to seeing this. Document.querySelector H1, and then we can chain on at the end dot text content equals end of this lesson. And you can see my change is reflected up here. So to recap, text content, inner HTML, two different ways of grabbing the content of a given element. We select it first, then we run .innerHTML or .text content on that selected element. Text content will extract only the text and return a big string full of text. And inner HTML will give us everything as a string, including the HTML elements. So here's a little bonus at the end. This is not something that I expect you to remember, but there is another difference between inner HTML and text content, and I'll illustrate that here. Let's try something like this: document.body, which gives us the whole body, dot inner HTML, and you can see we get all of the HTML for the body, everything. We can do the same thing with text content, like this, and we get all of the text on our page, which is just these 3 lines. What I can do though is if I wanted to get rid of everything on this page, which is not really a good idea, but if I wanted to, and I wanted to replace it with a new H1, and that H1 just said goodbye. To do that, I could do something like this: document.body.textContent equals, and I could put an H1 tag in here and do something like this, where I'm writing HTML, and if I hit enter, oh no, it actually doesn't work. So text content is not going to treat the string as HTML. It treats it purely as text. So it doesn't render the H1 tag. Versus if I did the same thing with inner HTML, you can see it actually renders it as an H1. So that's a nuanced but important difference. Text content treats whatever it gives you and whatever you give it as just text, and inner HTML will actually treat it like HTML and render it on the page if you give it tags to render.